Hi everyone, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about rendering using some indirect lighting methods in Maya. There's actually a lot of indirect lighting methods that you can use in Maya in order to light your scenes. You know, anything from final gather to global illumination, image-based lighting, and what we're about to talk to today, which is using the physical sun and sky setup. And you may be familiar with this from if you've used 3ds Max, but it's roughly the same setup here. It's just a matter of process. All right, so you can see I got like a real simple backdrop scene that we're going to be lighting right now. And if I just go and kind of crop the scene or to get my composition, and I hit render, what we'll get is kind of like a boring boring render. This is lit with just the scene default light, so we got some issues here. You can see that it's really washed out, and the general lack of shadows means there's absolutely no detail on here. Of course, I mean, I don't have any textures on here to also help define the different surfaces on here, but the lack of shadows really makes it difficult to get from one object to the next and see a sort of separation. So without taking any more time, let's just kind of jump right into indirect lighting with the physical sun and sky. Alright, what you need for this to work is you can't be in Maya's, you can't use its native software renderer, and so you can check to see if you're using it by just going up to your render settings, which is it's like the little clacker with the two dots next to it. And if I look in here, it'll tell me what software renderer I'm using. So I'm using Maya software right now. If I switch over to Mental Ray, which is the better of the those two renderers, and I do another render, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of difference between one and the other. Alright, however, the thing that you will be able to do is you have a lot more options when it comes to lighting. You're not stuck using direct lights and just trying to fake the global illumination, try to fake the bounce light that you would normally get with if you're just stuck with the Maya software options. So let's just switch this over. So going back into render settings, I'm going to go switch to Mental Ray. And what you can see is between software renderer and Mental Ray, Maya software renderer just has these two tabs up here. If you look at Mental Ray, it's got 6, and the one we're looking for is just to the next to over to the right, next to last. It's called indirect lighting. And if I open this up, there should be several options that we're going to be dealing with, and actually, lucky for us, we're going to be right in the first set of options. Image-based lighting is using an image, an HDRI image, to light the scene. It's really fantastic. It gets really fantastic results, but we're not going to cover that today. What we will cover is this, the physical sun and sky, and it's really not that hard to set up anymore. So pretty much all I have to do is I just hit the big button that says create, and what happens is it goes in and it sets up a few settings. It turns on final gather, which gives you a lot of the ambient light from the scene. But what it also gives you is, if I sort of minimize this and I go back into my scene and I zoom out a little ways, if I turn the grid on, I should be able to see where my light is. And my scene is rather large, but you can see if I zoom in close enough, I have this light, it's directional light. It looks like a bunch of arrows on here. This is the sun on here. And if I go back to my original shot and I just do a quick render on here, go back to roughly where I was before, it'll take a little bit longer to set up, so I might have to pause this while it's rendering, but maybe we can hopefully things will kind of page through here really fast, and it'll render fairly quickly. Let me see if I can move this into frame. But what you can also already see right now is it looks like it's noon almost, very bright. You can see the lights, you can see the shadows on here, and you can see all this really soft shadowing that's going on in the scene. Everything's looking pretty good. Something else you're going to notice is once we hit this one corner, suddenly that black background that I had from the last render has turned into like a blue sky. So we'll give it just another second or two. Something like that. So we got a nice daytime render. Okay, so this physical sun and sky, it does what it says. The sky part is one attribute of it, and the sun is another part. So the directional light acts as the sun for the scene on here, and the light you can see from how the light's coming down, it's almost directly overhead, is the direct result of this light, which is coming down from almost directly overhead. Alright, you can change the orientation of this, so maybe if I want to rotate it, maybe make it a little bit more of a like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock, or some sort of late afternoon. All you got to do is rotate the light. I'll do another quick render. Alright, so now while this thing's rendering, I've got the light coming pretty much almost directly at the front faces of the building. So you can see the shadows have now changed. This is a lot more evenly lit, where I'm not getting the bounce light to kind of help illuminate the areas that are recessed like this. I'm getting pretty much a direct, very, very strong light on the scene here. And so it'll make all the adjustments as you go and you do this. Or what else I can do is, I'll just let this thing render out really quick, is I can go in and change the color of the intensity of this and the color of different attributes on here. So you can see that when I put this more like this, the sky is actually a slightly different color as well. All right, these attributes that you're dealing with the sun and sky, if you select the light, you can see I got my physical sun on here in the physical sun tab, and right now it's on. I got a multiplier of 1, and these mean that they're mapped using something else. So if I click on here, it takes me to actually the thing that controls it. So if I want the light to be a little bit dimmer, let's just say I turn it down to like 0.5. What this should do is you should take that light that I had in my last render, and it will it'll dim it. Alright, what I'm also going to do is, just so it renders faster, it's always a good idea to get in here and just change your settings while you're trying to set up the light. So this is like a pre-render or an early production render, so we're just trying to get the light right. I don't need a full HD render, which takes 2 or 3 times longer than this half size or third size render to get out there. So it's much more advantageous to do this really quick and save the big renders for when you got your textures down, you got your lighting pretty much down, you're just trying to final the render. There we go. Real quick render on there. So you can see that it's much dimmer than it was the last time. That's also low res, that's why it's so grainy right here. But just real quick, that is just kind of a quick rundown on the physical sun and sky. So if you ever decided you needed to use it, you could use it and get it set up ASAP.